Bonjour relatives. Shangwewe Kamigu Queen Indigenous. I'm Jamie Kellicutt with HIR Wellness Institute. I'm our Community Engagement and Indigenous Affairs Director. And I am so happy to be here with all of you. Right now, I am getting our smudge ready. I'm going to offer some of this to you so we can start our day, our time together in a good way. Here's some smudge for all of you. Happy Friday, everyone. Welcome to Emotional Sobriety. If this is your first time joining us, relatives, we are so happy that you are here with us. Miigwech. Emotional Sobriety is a time where we come together every Friday and we spend just a few moments together talking about recovery, walking the red road, healthy coping. We come together in CAM, Community Activated Medicine. The people are the medicine. That's what that means. That was a term coined and developed by our CEO and founder, Leah Denny. Community Activated Medicine. The people are the medicine. I have some beautiful people with me here today and every Friday. And so I would like to pass it over to Xavier. Xavier, if you could introduce yourself, bring your voice into this space. How are you doing?
Of course. Thank you, Jamie. Hello, everyone. I am doing well today. It is Friday. The sun has been shining, which I am happy about. This is like perfect weather. I love it. It needs to stay like this. But I understand, that living here in Wisconsin, after being here for some years, I realized that, it doesn't last very long sometimes, but it's all good. I'm enjoying it. I'm doing well. So for those of you that are tuning in for the first time ever, welcome. My name is Xavier Smart. I am a community healer and a counselor here at HIR Wellness Institute. So what that entails, two different roles, but they kind of mesh together, right? So the community healer aspect is just being able to bring my voice into community spaces, being able to teach our relatives, teach community members, community partners about healing, what that looks like, bringing and elevating the voices of our relatives in spaces that are needed, and being a support to everyone here at HIR Wellness as well. And then that counseling part is doing just that, being someone that is providing support via individual therapy, helping out with some of our support groups. We have a wonderful elders book club that we do every Tuesday and Thursday.
Yeah.
Being able to support our upcoming programming, which I'm looking forward to in terms of our boys. So there's so many different aspects, right? But ultimately, that's who I am. I'm happy to be here every Friday with all of you, as always, to talk about healing and to hold this space. So with that, I will pass to our wonderful moderator and intern, John.
Thank you so much, Jamie and Xavier. Hi, relatives. Thank you for joining us for Emotional Sobriety every Friday. My name is John Yang, and I am a social work intern at the University of Wisconsin, Milwaukee. And I'm so glad to be here every Friday. I also help with our Survivors of Suicide private Zoom group every Thursday from 5 till 6 p.m. It's just holding space for anyone who wants to join at any point between 5 and 6. And just holding space to kind of talk about anything that you're feeling at that moment. Love being here every Friday with Xavier and Jamie, and all of you relatives. And then I also help with the Children's Fire Book Club, every Wednesday from 1 till 2 p.m. Feel free to check it out. It is on Facebook Live and just many more. So I just love being here, and thank you for joining us this evening.
Thank you both. Thank you, Xavier. Thank you, John, for bringing both of your voices into this space. Thank you for being here with me every Friday. It is a real honor to be able to offer this kind of healing, and it feels really nice to have both of you here together in circle like this, to be able to show up for our relatives every week. So thank you. Thank you both. And as always, relatives, we start with a meditation. So we're reading from this book, Meditations with Native American Elders, The Four Seasons by Don Koyas. And this book has been instrumental for me in my recovery. I've been walking on the Red Road for over 6 years from alcohol. And every day I'm walking my healing journey. And there are some days that are better than others. And here you will find that you're going to hear parts of our story. We show up each week and we practice vulnerability, and we believe in vulnerability. We believe that that is where the healing happens, when we start talking about what is it? What is that? Those pieces of our story. What are some of those things that have been holding us back? What are some of those things that our spirit has been kind of tugging at us or poking at us and saying, hey, you might want to look at this. You might want to work through this. You might want to talk about it. So today is February 26th, and I'm going to read us what our meditation is for today. The Great Spirit is the one that's looking after us. That's a quote by Jimmy Jackson, who's Ojibwe. The only place our minds can find peace is when our focus is on the Creator. Daily, we need to ask the Creator to direct our thinking. When we look at our brothers and sisters, we need to see the Creator in them. When we look at the trees, plants, and the animals, we need to realize the Creator is within us. Our attention needs to be on the Creator. When we work, we do it for the Creator. When we are troubled, we need to pray to the Creator. When we are happy and joyful, we need to realize we are feeling the presence of the Creator. Thinking God thoughts will produce peace. O great mystery, let me focus on you today. And that was our meditation for today, to bring us into this space together of community activated medicine, sharing, learning from one another. And I am curious. I'm curious as to Xavier, what are you feeling right now with that meditation? Was there anything in particular? What's going on?
That was a great meditation. Resonates with me. It's something that I try to incorporate as part of my daily practice, being able to connect with the Creator in some form of way, whether that be through prayer, whether that is through you know, connecting with sacred medicines, connecting with ancestors, right? Things like that. But I think the part that it really stood out to me is when we look at trees, plants, and the animals, we need to realize the Creator is within us. So being able to just notice that connection between our plant relatives, our four-legged relatives, right, and knowing that there is a connection that is truly there, and how pure it is. I think oftentimes as humans we feel that we're like, yeah, we're it, but I truly feel that if we weren't here, all these things would be just fine. um, thus putting us at the lesser, right? So just that aspect of really just being respectful and being mindful of our connection to other things is sitting with me. So yeah.
I love it. Love it, love it, love it. Yes. It was a good reminder for me that every time I look around or I go outside and I'm walking in the woods, maybe I'm just standing in the yard and closing my eyes and listening, whether it's hearing birds or people or a barking dog or whatever it is, that the creator is there all around us, all around us. And it also reminds me of the wind. It reminds me of our ancestors. It even reminds me that we are our ancestors' prayers. That generations ago they prayed for us, and here we are. Here we still are, resilient as ever, healing, walking in our truth, helping the next generations. So yeah, that's what I got from that meditation. It was a good way to start. Thank you for sharing that, Xavier. And relatives, we always also bring a part of our workbook into this space. So when we get together on Fridays, what we're doing partly is also modeling what would it look like if we were in a virtual space for a support group for emotional sobriety. We will eventually have a support group once we know that we have relatives who are interested in that. This is what it would look like. We would be on Zoom together. We wouldn't be on Facebook Live. It would just be us in the Zoom room, and we would go in circle in a virtual way and have our group together. And the book, one of the books that we would use is our workbook called Maintaining Emotional Sobriety During COVID-19. And today, Xavier, if you wouldn't mind, would you be able to read us a little bit about where we're at? Because the last couple weeks we've been talking about anger. That's kind of been our focus. And we still are there. We're still talking about anger. There's a lot to talk about. Yeah.
Really, thanks, Jamie, for bringing the book into the space, transitioning us and setting us up for yet another wonderful week of exploring anger, a topic that often we try to run from, but it knocks on the door, and it's there, and we have to allow ourselves and be brave enough to open that door and just let it in and see what happens. And that's what we're essentially doing. And I'm excited that we're doing this together as a group, right? In a safe environment, in a safe space, right? We're holding space for one another to explore and dive a little bit deeper into ourselves, our perspective on anger. And I think it's just beautiful. So in the past few weeks, right, we've talked about anger, the different ways that anger can manifest and express itself. And then we've transitioned through the way anger shows up in our bodies, right? And the angry body, what that looks like. So today we'll be transitioning and talking about rage. I think that's a good one, right? Yep, good absolutely. So we'll just go through and see where this leads us, have a discussion as always.
And Xavier, real quick, I just wanted to mention something that I've forgotten to mention the last couple weeks, but relatives, as we talk about these topics, sometimes it's a good idea to have a journal or a notebook or something with you and just jot down things that maybe are sitting with you that you're kind of feeling like, oh yeah, I can relate to that. I can relate to that. Or if we talk about something that you feel would be helpful for you, write that down. You can always go back to that at another time. You know, sometimes it's just helpful to see the words on paper. Maybe doodle pictures about it even. Some people like to see imagery in that way. So every time we meet together on Fridays, maybe it'd be a good idea to have a journal, to have some paper with you, just so that, you know, like I said, if there's anything that we say that is really sitting with you, write it down, and feel free to comment. Feel free to add your voice to the comment section. John is going to let us know when any relatives have anything to say, they add their voice into the comments, he'll let us know. And so we can have dialogue that way. So we can talk about whatever it is that's on your mind. So sorry, Xavier, I just wanted to, you know, sometimes like things pop in. If I don't,
You gotta let it out.
I will forget. So thank you. I'm sorry, Xavier.
Very quickly sorry to interrupt.
No, go for it, John. I was gonna come to you, John. So you read my mind. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I just wanted to read a comment from Avery. She said, "You are all amazing people, doing an amazing thing. Happy Friday."
Aw, miigwech, Avery, thank you. Happy Friday to you too. Thank you so
And
much.
during the meditation, she mentioned, "I love the reminder that we are a product of generations who prayed for us in our existence."
Yes, yes. Thank you for sharing that, Avery. Thank you for bringing your voice into this space. That is how the healing happens. That's a part of it, is by you being here with us. We are all a part of the healing, all of us. So thank you.
Thank you, John, for reading those out and bringing that into the space. Thank you, Avery, for sharing as always. And again, relatives, if there's anything on your mind, any share that you feel, anything in your spirit you feel you want to share, go ahead and share it. Lean into it, because it could help someone else, right? We're all in this together, learning, healing together. So lean into it.
Yes.
So with that, we will get into the rage state, hijacking our brains. All right. So rage can hijack our brains. It can take us over, obliterating reason and blowing past ordinary boundaries. And we can be almost in a blackout, which is why people who rage often don't remember what they were like while raging, and they minimize their effect on others. During rage attacks, those parts of the brain that are central to feeling and expressing anger, such as the amygdala and the hypothalamus, commandeer the rest of the brain. In this wholesale takeover, the cerebral cortex is overwhelmed and resistant, and reasoning are impossible. Although rage, by which I mean anger that is extremely immoderate or unrestrained, may be adapted as a responsive to severe threat. In most situations, it destroys much more than it accomplishes, says Dr. Norman Rosenthal in The Emotional Revolution. Chronic rage might also be an indicator of depression. It's been estimated that 40% of those suffering from rage attacks also suffer from clinical depression. So just gonna pause there before we transition to the next paragraph. I think in this, just in that paragraph, the importance of highlighting, I'm gonna reread the sentence. So during rage attacks, those parts of the brain that are central to feeling and expressing anger, such as the amygdala and the hypothalamus, commandeer the rest of the brain. In this wholesale takeover, the cerebral cortex is overwhelmed, and resistant and restraint and reasoning are impossible. So relatives, ultimately, what that is saying is that when we're in a state of deep rage, right, we essentially, when we black out and we're in a state of like, everything is just, our brain shuts down. That anger, that rage kind of takes over. So we're not able to express how we're feeling. and we're also not able to even think through, right, our actions. So in the state of rage, it's hard to think about what it is that we're doing, what it is that we're saying, right, because our brain has completely just been overrode by the anger that our body is experiencing. And also too, to note that if you do recognize, or as we're having this conversation, you're like, yeah, I've experienced that before, right? That rage, again, is may have been a adaptive response to a severe threat, in the past, where your body kind of went into a state of, this is how I'm going to protect myself, right? So when you're in situations and find yourself in disagreements with others, or things like that, your body may still be thinking, right, like, this is a very threatening situation, right? And you go into the state of complete rage, everything goes out the window, and you're not able to think clearly, right? So I just wanted to highlight that part, because I know it said a lot about amygdala, hypothalamus, and all these words, right, that we don't typically mention, but those are just parts of the brain that really deal with the expression of anger, feeling of anger, and then we have the cerebral cortex, which is about that reasoning part and being able to think through certain situations. So Jamie or John, is there anything that you wanted to talk about with that? Anything that stood out to you all? Or could start with Jamie.
Yeah. For me, it's causing me to think back to my early, like even before I was in recovery, and it's causing me to really sort of roll back the years of my healing journey prior to choosing to be in recovery, and how there was such a difference in how I responded to situations. So, like, I remember very vividly being so angry, and I feel a very distinct hurt that was connected to the anger prior to stopping drinking. And it was like instantaneous. It was an instantaneous feeling. I don't know if I guess, yes, I can relate to the blacking out with substances and without substances, with anger, rage. Yes. I'm right now just thinking, I'm even thinking of a particular instance where I was hurt, my feelings were hurt. That caused me, because of other hurt feelings that were never addressed, to instantly be so angry and hurt that it felt like rage. And I didn't do anything rageful to anyone, but it felt that intense. And it was like, I can remember getting in my car and driving off, but I don't remember getting from point A to point B. And it was a very long period of time that I was driving, probably like 45 minutes. And I would say maybe 40 of those minutes I don't remember driving. But I know that I was. And I know I was driving way too fast and crying hysterically and angry, just like felt it from head to toe, crying hysterically, angry, and, you know, like yelling things out in the car to myself because I was so angry. And so I guess I'm bringing this up, Xavier, because I'm wondering, I want to know from your take on rage and how that's connected to us and our emotions. Do tears also come when somebody is so angry? Is that a normal part of the process? You know, would that be something that we might expect to happen if we were feeling really rageful, for like tears to come and to, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. That's again, the body's response of allowing yourself to kind of release it, get it out in the way that is needed. It's similar to um almost similar to individuals that laugh when like something bad happens to someone, or if they're nervous, right? It's your body is that's the only way it knows how to react in those moments. It doesn't mean that, hey, oh, that was funny. It's like, no, I'm actually pretty nervous, and this is kind of
Right.
a stress response, right? So in that way, I think it's similar to that crying when we're in the rage, that your body's it's that stress response of I'm feeling all of these things. It's built up and the tears are just flowing. And this is what my body is doing as a stress response. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you, Xavier.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you for starting this conversation, and thank you for reading that. So much good information there. I think that we just don't, where there's such a there's like so much shame with mental illness, right? And there's so much shame with even the feeling of anger. Like, people are like, I don't know, am I allowed to be angry? Like, it seems like everybody makes it like it's so wrong. But like, legitimately, we can feel anger, right? We can feel anger. Now, I look back at my journey and I see how hurt I was, and I can see myself differently now. Back then, it was just like, it felt very chaotic. It felt very out of control. Now I can see that there was a lot of hurt there, and a lot of pain and a lot of trauma that was never talked about, never processed. So now if I were to get hurt by something, I wouldn't have that same response. I am in a different space where I'm able to communicate how I'm feeling. But that took a lot of practice, relatives. That took a lot of time. There was a lot of tears. There was a lot of me, me having this, like, I could go from 0 to 60 in a split second. And that, looking back at myself, that was a scary place for me to be, because I didn't even understand it at the time. It was scary for me. I imagine it was scary for people around me. And so, yeah, I very much can relate to this. I don't think I had the right words, though. I didn't necessarily look at the way that I responded to situations as anger or rage. I didn't have the vocabulary. I didn't know what that was called necessarily. And I also know for a fact that I didn't have the vocabulary to explain what I was experiencing in life from other people. Definitely didn't have, because I've seen a whole lot of rage in that way, from abuse, from domestic abuse. And hearing more about this topic is helpful to be able to break it down a little bit, to break it down, to slow it down, and to sort of think of it differently. Not justifying, that's not what I'm talking about. Just being able to understand things in a different way so that I can show up differently, right? Because it's each of us individually. What are we going to do with what we learn about healing? What can we do to incorporate some of this into our own healing journey? And how does that help us show up differently? How do we start to show up in a space where we're talking openly about things that happen to us and experiences that we've had? And maybe one day it was really, really hard to do and we were sweating and scared to share. And all of a sudden, one day it happens where it's like, wow, that actually wasn't so bad. I just shared a little bit of my story. And I'm not crying. Oh my gosh. We healing, everybody. We healing. Yes. Okay. Carry on, Xavier. Carry on.
Thank you, Jamie. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
John, any thoughts, or are there any comments from our relatives?
No comments, but I do want to share that
Go for it.
I'm on the same boat as Jamie of like, it took many, many years to really understand and really reflect back. And, once you really take that step back and just reflect on like, wow, this is me back then. It's like, I can't even believe that I made that much progress. Because I know for me, the last few weeks that we've been talking, I grew up with a lot of like, I was between physical towards people, and then also I used to always hide and keep everything to myself. And then you'll keep it to yourself for so long, and then something happens and it triggers you, and then you start to see red, or you kind of black out, and you don't know what happened until after the situation. And me, just like Jamie, I used to, right afterward or during the moment, I used to cry and I never knew why. But thank you, Xavier, for explaining the reasons why, because I never knew why. And it was just kind of part of the emotion. Just everything was just so intense at that very moment. And sometimes you don't realize what you did until after the fact. Um, and so, it is so important for us to kind of talk about this topic and normalize anger because everyone experiences it. It's just how you deal with it. And I think too often people try to numb certain parts of your, behaviors or how you're feeling instead of allowing you to acknowledge and express it and then do something about it. And I think that, I love what we're doing here because we're normalizing anger and telling everyone that it's okay. We experience anger. Um, and, some people have a lot more frustration and anger frequently, and that's okay. It's so important to understand that it's a normal behavior and normal to happen in your life. Let's learn how to address it in a different manner, learn to address it differently, different coping skills. You don't have to resort to old behaviors that you're used to or behaviors that were taught or passed down to you from families or people that you were around. So that's why we're here every Friday to talk about these difficult situations and teach these new coping skills. Because for me, those are my only two at first. And it took many, many years to really try different skills and try different new things and try and find out like which one works best for me. So that's why every single week we bring in what works for us, and we also discuss what the book is talking about, and bring up what the book is mentioning, and what the book states and what we are stating. It may work for you. It may not be the only answer, but it's one of many solutions that could be beneficial for you. Uh, and relatives, I am moderating in the comments, so feel free to kind of share with us along the way and let us know, how did you deal with your anger or anything relating to anger, or just how you're feeling. Just let us know. And thank you so much, Jamie and Xavier, for providing this space for us to be vulnerable and to share with our relatives and let them know that we're just very similar. We're very, very similar. It's just that, we've learned to overcome certain things in our past. But, to be honest, we're still working on a lot of the things in our past. And we're professionals, but we're not perfect. So,
Yeah.
why we're here every Friday. We're learning from you, and, we're sharing what we do know.
Absolutely. And you know what? I just thought of something else. And Xavier, I really want your opinion or thoughts around this. So, something that I'm also thinking about. So, me being a survivor of domestic violence and sexual assault, right? And so, there has been many experiences that I've had in the past with feeling rageful because of what I was experiencing. So I don't know if that makes sense. So like, because there was this constant gaslighting in a relationship, and there was this constant, like, I would be attacked by for something, but then made to feel like that didn't actually happen, and then I started feeling like I was going crazy, and then it was like it would turn into, I'm looking like now I'm the one that's enraged, I am the one that's angry, I am so angry and so fed, and I'm like, and so I say this because relatives, you may be out there, you may be thinking, holy crap, I'm raging. Holy crap, like I am experiencing so much anger. And it might be connected to something deeper, something from something else that is happening that is causing this type of response. So I 100% know for a fact that I was able to be rageful on my own, and because of my own situations that I was dealing with, my own responses to things. And then I also think about how there seemed to be times when it was like brought upon because of the circumstance that I was in. Like, and I don't know if that makes sense, because I guess okay, I have a lot of thoughts running through my head right now, so I have to slow down. Slow down. Because now what I'm thinking and what I'm recognizing is, had I been healthy, I likely wouldn't have been in that position in the first place. Had I been healthy, and had I known my worth, I wouldn't have stayed in a relationship for 6 years that was abusive, and then gone to another relationship for 6 years that was abusive. So as I'm talking, thank you all for being in this space with me, because you're allowing me to share some thoughts and then get feedback from all of you. So does any of that make sense? Like, am I making sense right now?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Definitely this aspect of, having rage developing right on your own, and then because of circumstances or because of situations that you're in, and it coming up again, it's a stress response, right? If you're in stressful situations, your body's gonna respond in that way. It's in threat. It feels that it's in threat, so it may come up that way. So that 100% makes sense. And thank you both for bringing your voices into the space, and as always sharing a part of you, a part of your journey, because ultimately, that continues to support you on your healing journey, and it helps to give insight to what this healing journey actually looks like. And what that is that it takes time, that it doesn't happen overnight. And regardless of your title, your status, that at the end of the day, relatives, we're all experiencing something. We've all walked a journey, and it's through, once again, these connections, these circles, whether it be virtual or in person, that we can really truly begin to say, like, hey, I've overcome a lot. I have, right? And it makes stepping into that healing a little bit easier when we can see that others were brave enough, right, to embrace their journeys. And it gives that light, like, okay, maybe I can do something, right? And something is good, right? I won't say it's better than nothing, because sometimes nothing is what you need, and that's okay to be in a state of I'm good, and that's where I'm at right now. So yeah, thank you both for sharing and just bringing that into the space. But what Jamie was saying, I think is such a good transition into this next paragraph. So I'll just go ahead and transition into that. Excuse me. So sudden angry outbursts can also be a part of PTSD or unresolved grief. Rosenthal continues, Dr. Martin HIR and colleagues at Harvard have found that adults who were abused as children, whether verbally, physically, or sexually, show brainwave changes over the temporal lobe of the cerebral cortex. These changes resemble those seen in people with documented seizures in the temporal lobe, which surrounds the limbic structures. HIR suggests that early traumatic experience might kindle seizure-type activity in this area, resulting in a storm of electrical activity in the emotional part of the cerebral cortex. The end result could be a brain that is cocked and all too ready to fire off a limbic storm. So that was a lot of, again, wordy
break that down
brain.
for us. Break that down for us, Xavier.
So I'll try my best, as I too am still learning. But so what I'm understanding from this paragraph is, those of us, the adults, children, right, that have experienced abuse, or those adults that have experienced abuse as children, whatever that looks like, the part of our brain, right? Part of our brain it's similar to the part of the brain in individuals that have seizures. And ultimately what that is saying is, if we have those early traumatic experience in our lives, that when we do become emotional or in those states of high emotion, that the emotional part of our cerebral cortex kind of goes into this like seizure, like I'm guessing electrical activity, right? So our brain and the emotional part, right, is going haywire, like I'm right, which is where that rage and all the anger and everything kind of comes from, because we're in that state of because our brain is in that state of, there's this big storm going on in my brain, in the emotional part of my cerebral cortex, and it's a storm going. So therefore the way that it comes out, right, is that rage. It comes out as I like Jamie said, I didn't remember that 40 minutes of that drive, right? So it comes out in those ways. So that's my understanding of that. So ultimately, if those traumatic we experience them early on, it really impacts the way our emotional brain develops over time, right? And I guess through their research, they've seen that it mirrors those individuals that the electrical activity mirrors someone that also has seizures, right? So again, the electrical impulse is just going haywire, right? So yeah, does that make sense? Was that clear enough?
Yeah, that
Yeah.
does. That's very helpful. Thank you, Xavier.
Yeah.
There's
Absolutely.
there's a lot to learn about anger itself, and just so much to think about. I mean, I guess I think of it as when there was trauma in our life, and we know this, that when dependent on our experiences, that's how our brain is kind of formed, right? And so our brain has formed a certain way depending on what those experiences are, and that could cause certain reactions with anger. Maybe some unhealthy reactions to anger. Yeah, and you know what? Now that we've talked about that, what about the strategies that we have to use? Like what are the tools that we've learned over time? I know that we all have them. I know that we've all learned different strategies and different new ways to cope, because it's not like those feelings go away. It's not like, well, now I never get angry. I never get my feelings hurt. Of course those things still happen. It's different though. It's not like, And I've had many conversations with Leah, our CEO and founder, Leah Denny. And I love when she explains things in terms of energy, that it's a different energy. It's not necessarily like that someone's mad, or if I'm talking, like, because I can relate to that. I can relate that if something happens, maybe I feel disappointed if I really thought about it or really dug it apart, or maybe I'm hurt by something. I might get angry, but that doesn't mean that I respond necessarily in an angry manner, because now I've learned how to sit with the uncomfortable feeling. I still have days where I feel uncomfortable, and then I throw my hands in the air. I'm feeling uncomfortable. Where is this taking me? What are we doing? Still have those moments. And it's okay. It's okay. You know, if I had one, like if there was nothing else that you could think of to do, if you are feeling angry, I would literally throw my hands in the air and say, I am angry. Where is this taking me?
Mm.
And it would give me enough time to just stop, to just pause. It almost shake me up a little bit if I'm like, whoop, you know, shaking me up.
Mm-hmm.
There's other things though. I mean, I choose to go into nature, just to go outside. I try to change my environment, whatever that looks like. If I was living in the city, I would maybe take a walk down the city block. I know last week we talked about how we have a privilege if we're able to be in a nice area that has beautiful trees and we're hearing nature and there's water and birds. Not everybody necessarily lives in that kind of environment. So maybe it means finding a corner of our house. And maybe we take a book that we love, or we just take a piece of paper and we color on it. Mm-hmm. Or we go sit in the basement, or we go in the attic, or we go sit outside on the porch. I used to sit on the curbs when I was a kid, because I lived in the city. So I don't know, that was kind of fun. You had to be careful so that cars knew you were there, so, you know. But there's a lot of things that we could do. So I'm interested in hearing, Xavier, what are some of your strategies? If you're feeling the feeling of anger has crept in.
Yeah, it's taking, as we have explored this topic of anger, for me, I've begun to realize that anger really shows up in sadness for me, right? And a lot of it, as I reflect on my own journey, led to wanting to numb, right, that sadness. So using substances, and I use that as my route of coping and dealing with the stressors, of stress, of heartbreak, of whatever it may be. A lot of the times I think there was that anger associated that I didn't realize, and as we continue to talk, um I think I'm beginning to realize that a lot of those feelings may have been anger, and not just right sadness or anything, but really anger, and dealing with it through substances was my means. And again, like both John and Jamie mentioned, it's taken time to really find ways that have just allowed me to deal with that anger, deal with that hurt in healthier ways that my spirit is like, yeah, that's what we need. And I think early in my journey, it would actually relates to the meditation. And for me, it was about reconnecting with the creator in whatever way that looks like, right? Um, and I found myself, getting really involved with like on campus activities, right? And during my time back in my undergrad, really found myself gravitating towards like campus ministry and that area, right? So that kind of started opened the door into my healing journey as well as my spiritual journey. And through that whole journey, right, I've learned and found different tools, different things again that my spirit is like, yeah, keep doing that. And I
Mm-hmm.
think for me, one of those is again being able to meditate and sit in silence. Um, it's we live in such a world that is so fast and so much stimuli going on, and that can be stressful as well. And
Yeah.
we don't realize how much that can create rage within us. And I know for myself, there was a time when social media, there's the news and everything that comes on, it gets to you, right? In particular when we had last year, as we had so many police killings of unarmed black men, that brought that as we now as I talk about it, that created a lot of rage for myself,
Mm-hmm.
um a lot of being scared to be me, right? There were moments where it was like, oh, I'm angry, so I'm gonna go outside and I'm gonna walk. But then it would hit me, and I'm like, oh, I am gonna go inside because I'm scared.
Mm.
So even
Yeah.
those moments, right? So it's about it's tricky. So many different factors, so many things. And I know I might sound like I'm talking in a circle,
Nope.
but that just is the complexity of this life that we're living, right? And our journey that we're walking. But being able to really lean into those things that your spirit are guiding you towards. And again, for me, it is being able to go for a walk and just saying, you know what, I need this walk, even if it's just two houses down and I'm gonna turn back around. Even if I just sit outside and just sit here for a minute and let that happen, um and just letting that happen, and maybe going to a local park, right, swinging on the swing, just feeling the breeze. I love swings. But yeah, so for me, it really is about being able to come to a state of connecting with my breathing, and allowing myself to feel through it. I will journal if I need to. Um, I will color, and again, if it comes out and it's like you start writing and then you just start scribbling on the page, hey, that's what it needs to be. And I found that I've done that sometimes where I'm getting this anger out, and then the words just turn into scribble, and you leave it and you let that be what it needs to be and allow yourself to release it in that way. So um, those are just a few things that have helped me connect with the moment. I know Jamie mentioned too, like being able to just sit and just kind of, if you're outside, just being able to identify things, right? Counting cars, counting the
Mm-hmm.
clouds, counting whatever it is, listening, seeing what you can hear, tasting the air. What does the air taste like, right? What does it smell like around you? So being able to tune in to your senses, tune into what can you feel the grass, feel the concrete on your feet, um, feel the breeze, right? And allow yourself to, that can really help to allow yourself to come back to the present, like, okay, I'm here, I'm right here in this moment, and let it be again what it needs to be, right? So those are some ways that has helped me over my journey, as I continue my journey, right? So um yeah.
I love that. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that, Xavier. Um, John, are there any comments?
I haven't seen any comments so far.
Okay. What are some coping strategies that you have that you've learned along the way for anger?
And so I know that for me, I've developed so many different coping skills along the way. And just, for me, it's like having all of this in this toolbox. And if I feel like doing this, I'll just pull it out from my toolbox and use it. So for like example, I know that for me, I used to express myself in anger in different ways, such as like isolation or, rage, like what we talked about. And then over the years, for me, cooking is very soothing for me, especially if I don't know if it's like the rhythmic of just cutting. It could be, I don't know the science or anything behind it, but it just kind of works for me because I'm just focusing on that and just chopping and just listening to like the chopping noise of just the rhythmic, I believe. And then
Yeah.
also, I love listening to music. And for me, I have a very wide range of musical, taste, and it really depends on my mood. Sometimes, if I'm in a lot of rage, I like listening to like rock or metal music. That's one of my favorite genre. Even when I'm not in a rage mood, I just love that genre. And sometimes, if you know, I don't know how to express my anger, I feel like just that loud metal and rock really expresses my anger for me. So that for me really helps release all of that anger and that tension. And then sometimes I don't feel like listening to rock or metal, so I'll listen to something soothing, and that will kind of help me calm down and bring myself down from that rage or anger. So, music, I think we can all agree that music is so therapeutic.
Yep.
I know Jamie is.
Love the music. Love the music. Absolutely.
And then also for me, I'm a huge advocate and love writing poetry just because for me, I love poetry. I've said that multiple times now. Poetry for me, I feel like I can really timestamp or put a name to that anger or that frustration or that feeling that I'm feeling at that moment and then just write about it. And it doesn't have to be like with rhymes or anything like that. There's no right or wrong way to write your poetry. You write it based off of how you're feeling, and then you label and put a title to that feeling at that very moment. And what I love about it is that it gives me the opportunity to calm down and then reflect back on that feeling and acknowledge that feeling. So that's one reason why I love poetry. I'm sure you can do the same thing with journaling too, which I do love journaling, but I just prefer poetry. It's just, I don't know, it just suits me better.
That's awesome.
There's no right or wrong way. Um, and those are like the two that I can think of that I use regularly, or like even guided meditation. Love guided meditation. Sometimes, your thought is racing and your heart is beating very fast, and you're thinking about everything else possible. And sometimes you just need to distract your mind or hear someone else talk in a calm tone. Because sometimes at that moment, you may not be able to think in a calm way, or, may not even be able to do any deep breathing. Sometimes hearing that guided meditation of someone else talking and you're just listening can be so calming, and it can help take you from that rage state to a more calmer state. So I do love my guided meditation. I can't do meditation and just silence. I still need my guided meditation. That's just what works for me.
Yeah.
And, relatives, I just wanted to say that, Jamie, Xavier, we all have different coping skills and what works for us. But what's important is that it's individualized. And we need to, along the way, I've done different types of coping skills. And these are just a few that I found that works for me. And, I'm still trying to find out more coping skills because it's always great to add more to your toolbox. You can never have too much coping skills. No one ever said that.
Absolutely. I love that. Thank you, John. Thank you for
And then
sharing
I
that.
do want to read a comment from Avery. She
Good.
said that I tend to isolate and lay down or turn on my favorite show. I try to get my mind off of it so I don't have to deal with it, which doesn't always help because I always go back to try and work on it.
Thank you, Avery Miigwech. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah.
And she also said tensing up and then relaxing is my natural response to rage. I
Mm.
also love blasting music for various moods, including rage. I'm on the same boat. Sometimes you need to.
Thank you, Avery. You know what? That's actually the whole like tensing up
Hmm.
and then releasing. That's
Yeah.
actually a really good skill to have. Being able to like bring yourself from like that feeling to letting it go and
Yeah.
recognizing what the difference is. It's really healthy. Um, One of the things that I really love to do is if I'm real mad and I can't have a conversation about it, I write. And I just write everything that comes to my head. It doesn't matter if it makes sense or not. I just write it out. And it gives me a chance to at least pause long enough to where I'm taking it from here and I'm putting it on paper. It's just like I'm just letting it all out. And sometimes I've gone back to them just to see like where I was, where was my head at, and I'm like, wow, I had a lot I was thinking about. And I usually find that it's because I was holding on to things versus working on releasing it more in the immediate. Because our healing, it's an everyday thing. And we don't always do great, right? I mean, there's times where it's like, today I don't have the energy. I don't have the energy to process whatever it is that I need to process. I mention this though because it can catch up with us. So if we're not finding things that we can do that are going to help soothe us and whatever that means for us, if that means that we spend time watching Netflix because that's what we need, that's okay. We can do that.
Yeah.
And if it means we need to take a nap, that's okay. We can do that. And maybe it means that we journal. Maybe it means we sing or we play a musical instrument and get lost in the melody or the sounds. Or maybe it means we write a poem or we cook something beautiful and tasty and we spend some time doing that. Maybe it means we play cards. I remember playing cards when I was young. I still like to do that. Maybe it means coloring or playing. Maybe it means just playing and having fun. Having fun in the snow. Playing with our kids or our grandkids or our brothers and sisters if we have young siblings. Our cousins, or if we're an auntie and uncle, our nieces and nephews. Just having fun, laughing, watching something that's going to make us laugh. Laughter is the best medicine. It really is. And I know for me, I'm missing out on a big piece of what makes me happy, and that's music right now. But I know it won't last forever. Remember, relatives, we are in this box. We're in the pandemic box. It's COVID-19, but it's all good. We're going to get through this. We are going to get through this. We're going to see ourselves on the other side. And relatives, if you're really struggling, you can call our Cares Warm line. It is not a crisis line. So if you are feeling like you are in crisis, call 911, call 988, call the suicide prevention hotline. Reach out. If you're feeling unsafe, reach out to a loved one or someone you trust. We have services here. All of our services are free. We got many people who are doing all this good work for the community. We believe in community healing. And that's what we're doing. We're working on healing the community. And as we do that, we're healing each other. How cool is that? We show up. Here we are. It's Friday. We show up. We're wrapping up our week. We're getting ready for the weekend. And we're practicing healing with each other. That's pretty beautiful. That's pretty beautiful. Relatives, I would like to leave us with just a few words of encouragement. And for me, what I would say is that you are enough and you are worthy. You are worthy of every single bit of love. You are worthy of every single bit of joy. Thank you for being here and for showing up every week, for taking a few minutes out of your Friday. Your time is precious, so thank you. You're beautiful, and you're doing it. That's amazing. So that's what I have to say. And John, I'd like to pass it to you so that you could give a few words of advice, a few words of encouragement, whatever that is that you're sitting with. And then today we're going to end on Xavier. Xavier, I would like you to wrap us up after John. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jamie. And relatives, I just want you to know that you're not alone and that we're here for you. And like what Jamie mentioned, feel free to reach out to our cares line or a loved one. And just know that these feelings that you're feeling, it's only temporary and that it will get better. Yeah. And, you know, by joining us every single week, it shows that you want to learn and you want to improve yourself. And we're here to help you with that. And I just love what Jamie said. You are enough and that you are loved. Everyone is so beautiful, you know, and, you know, it's just so important to remind yourself about that, because I think that oftentimes when you're stressed out about anything that's going on, you lose sight of that. And it's so important to know that you have a purpose here. Mm-hmm. And that's why you're here. By joining us every Friday, you know, it shows that you want to change, you want to get better. And that's why we're here every Friday. We're learning to get better along with you.
Thank you, John.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, John. Thank you, Jamie. Thank you both, as always, for being able to bring your space, yourselves into this space, and allowing yourselves to hold space for our relatives. This was a great way to wrap up our 3-part series on anger. And I am, of course, looking forward to many more Facebook Lives with you all. You both had such beautiful words. It's hard to follow up, but ultimately, relatives, I agree and follow up with Jamie. You are enough. That your voice, your story, not your story, but your journey, that you matter, that your life experience matters, and that you truly do have a purpose here. And you know, life gets hard. Our experiences, um, they take a lot of it out of us sometimes, and that's okay. It's okay to sit in that and, you know, feel, allow ourselves to be in pain for a while, right? But ultimately know that in the midst of all that pain, in the midst of all the hurt, that there is light at the end of the tunnel, that there is light within you, and that you have people here at HIR Wellness that are willing to help you walk towards that light, one step at a time, one breath at a time. And we love each and every one of you. We're happy to be here, happy to provide our services and to continue to just heal together. So those are my words, and I look forward to seeing you all next week at around 4ish. Always. So thank you all for being here, and we will see you all next week, and we hope you have a great and wonderful weekend.
Gigawabman. Love you all.